So on an individual level, if you were an 18-year-old Tony Robbins, what would you be doing at this moment? What would you be focusing on work-wise? How would you be designing your life for such a world?
I have 5 kids and 5 grandkids, right? So I have a 52-year-old daughter, and I have thanks to COVID, a 4-year-old daughter. So COVID was good to me. I was home. So I look at my especially my grandkids and my daughter, and I say they're entering a world that none of us have known before. And so how do I arm them for it? And the answer is a couple of things. Number one, I have to teach them not to do what most people in the world do. Most people you talk to, of any, even, quote, successful people, whatever that means, they're stressed all the time. Stress. I'm so stressed. You hear people talk about stress all the time. It's like they argue about who's more stressed. And I look at that and go, why are they stressed? And the answer is because they're managing their life. We're not made to manage circumstances. We're made to create. We were created by something. Call it your creator, call it the universe, call it God, whatever you want to call it. And we were made to create. And when we create, we're alive. When we just try to maintain or manage or hold on to something, if we're just caught up in making a living instead of designing a life, life is a bitch. And that's why so many people have so many challenges. So I'm teaching my kids to be creators, and I teach them the second piece, the most important thing, I believe, that's made me successful. And anyone I've ever interviewed, you interviewed 1 million people, you see if you agree or disagree with me. The 3 most important skills in life now are the ones that allow you to learn more rapidly. If you learn rapidly, you can win no matter what happens with the technology. And what are those 3 skills? Number 1, the skill of pattern recognition. When you can recognize patterns, you eliminate fear. Fear comes from, this has never happened before. I don't know what this is. Chaos. Like I hear people all the time talk about how we've never been this place politically. We're here in America. We're going to have a civil war. And they don't do any history whatsoever. I have these 2 placards that I have, because back then they didn't have ads, right? They had placards. And one is from Thomas Jefferson talking about atoms, and one from Adams about Jefferson. And they said stuff that make Republicans and Democrats look like they're nice to each other. I mean, it's just unbelievable, that stuff they said. This is a cycle. And so when you recognize a pattern, it gives you power, potential power at least. The first power is you're not afraid anymore. You go, no, this is not something that's never happened. This is not something that's going to, I can see this. I can see how this has been dealt with. What took us from living in fear, from being hunter-gatherers or trying to survive every day, didn't know if we're going to survive every day, to being able to stay in one place? What pattern recognition?
I was going to say the seasons, but...
You got it.
Really?
That's it, the seasons. I figured you got it. The seasons, because before that, you could do the right thing at the wrong time, and you get pain. And 3 of the 4 seasons are the wrong time. So once we figured out, oh my God, if I plant in the spring and I take care of it through the hot summer, I get this big reaping. And if I hang on to some of it to make it through the winter, I can live here. I don't have to worry. All my fear disappears. So the minute we understood seasons, it changed humanity. And by the way, there's the seasons to your life. You could say 0 to 21 is springtime. Springtime, how hard is it for something to grow in springtime? If you start a business in an economic spring where everybody's optimistic, you think you're a genius, you're just in the right season, right? Mm-hmm. So 0 to 21, you're taken care of. And that season, you grow like crazy. Somewhere around, roughly, and everyone's different, 21, 22 years old, you go to the next stage, 22 to 42, and that's your summertime. That's the testing period of your life. What happens? You are 21, you've heard all this stuff, and now you go, you know what? I don't know if I believe this bullshit. I want to see what I believe. I'm going to test. All history, all studies of psychology show this is the most difficult time in most people's lives, right? 22 to 42. So if you're in that range and you're listening, I love you. Hang in there. This is your ground. If you keep growing, this is a great time, all right? Somewhere in that range, you make this transition. Somewhere around 30, 35, you're 33, you just got engaged. Congratulations, right? You start to move towards a family. You start to have those experiences. I'm sure yours will be very successful. Many aren't, right? So at 42, 43 to 63, that's the fall. If you planted in the spring, right, and you worked your tail off during that hot summer, now you can do more with your pinky than working around the clock. You know more people, you have relationships, you recognize the patterns, you know what's going on. Nothing's really a shock or surprise to you. You're more strategic, you're more efficient, you're more elegant, you have more choices. You've learned a lot of lessons. If you didn't plant in the spring and work hard in the summer, You're going to weep in the fall, not reap in the fall, right? But so now this is your power period. This is when most people earn the most money in their life if they're going to grow because they've accumulated knowledge, skills, relationships, and so forth. And then the winter, because she comes back to that, 64 to 84 to 104 to the oldest humans, 124. That period is a transition period to where you become a real leader because you're no longer, that 22 to 42, you're trying to prove yourself to yourself or maybe other people or both. But there's a point when you get into your power group, you know who you are. By the time you get into this last season, this, 64 to 84, 104, 124, you know who the F you are. I mean, and you want people to like what you do, but if they don't, it's like, you know who you are. You don't give a shit. I've just entered that season myself. I'm about to be 66 in a few weeks. And it's the most fulfilling season of all. It's mind-boggling. I wouldn't believe that when I was your age. That's why I'm sharing it. If you're healthy, if you're fit, if you're strong. If you don't do that, then it can be a bitch that time. But if you're healthy and strong, you have 40-year relationships, 35-year business relationships. You have friends that adore you and love them, and it's unbreakable, it's unshakable. You have an intimate relationship or a family or husband and wife relationship you've built to that point that is beyond anything you could have dreamed of or hoped for. You wake up every day and you know that life is a gift and you want to give back even more. Like you're more driven than you were when you were in the 22 to 42 stage. Those are the seasons. There's one more. There's seasons of history. And your season of history shapes how you shape your life. So you can look at 1,000 years of Roman history. I'm very much into history, and 500 years of Anglo-American history. And you start to see patterns. In fact, I'd recommend for everyone, there's a book called Generations. Have you read it?
No.
When I was working with President Clinton, in those days, I worked with President Clinton. I went across the other side and worked with the Speaker of the House, Gingrich. On the same day, on Clinton's, on his desk, on the Resolute desk, was this book, Generations. And I asked him about it. And he told me about how it's amazing. It shows how history is somewhat predictable and why the cycles are generated by different generations, how we react to the way we grew up. And then I go over to Gingrich's office, and he's a historian. He's got it on his desk. Really? It's a pretty thick book, good-sized book. My point is, if you want to navigate your life, you need pattern recognition so you don't go in reaction. And one thing is to understand seasons are a great pattern. They freed us. There's seasons of your life. You should think about this season. What's this season about for you? What do you want to extract from this season? And every season has predictable challenges and predictable opportunities. And where am I in the season? Some people go through their springtime during a war or wintertime. Some people go through their springtime in a fall. We all grew up with different environments. And so we're shaped by that. And that's why history's changed. So, but let me finish the last piece. I've gone way long. I apologize. But I said there's 3 skills. What do we need, right? First one is pattern recognition. The second one is pattern utilization. So I watch you. Like you and I both, we developed companies, took them public very early ages, made a lot of money, and figured out it wasn't just about money, right? Looking at your history, you didn't just recognize patterns, you used them. You saw them in marketing areas. You saw online opportunities. You saw things. You didn't just, now I understand it. You jumped on it. Anyone who's incredibly successful in anything, if they're great at dance, if they're great at investing in companies, if they're great in running companies, if they're great in singing, they recognize there are certain patterns. And then the final skill, and this is what I'm teaching my children, is you ultimately want to become a pattern creator. You take an example, say learn to play the piano, right? Yeah. How do you learn to play the piano? You got to recognize patterns, and usually you're taught someone else's patterns that produce something beautiful, right? Could be Bach, Beethoven, could be some rock, could be whatever you're learning. And so you learn those patterns, and you practice them. You learn to use them, right? And now you can produce the same music. There is a point, and I'm sure you've experienced this already, and you're going to experience a lot more in the next 10 years of your life. You've taken so much input in, you've recognized so many patterns that now you come through and you become the pattern creator. And that's when you start to become the GOAT of your industry, the best of all time. And you look at, Tom Brady's a friend of mine, like he made pattern distinctions no one else made on how to keep his body strong, one of the most important ones, so he had the duration, but also how to read the defense, know what's happening. Those tools, he started to create his own patterns about how to deal with that, right? And so once you create your own patterns, you bring something to the table that's never been there before. And you make something that's never been there before, your value goes through the roof.